Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be back with you on a Wednesday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. I don't know if that's a vodka IV bag or just the old school IV bag. Clearly, either Elijah's recovering or he's celebrating with the Tariq Hill news, moving out of the AFC West. Good to be back. I'm tan. I'm healthy. I'm a little heavier. It was drinks, it was grill, it was barbecue, it was golf. It was a good time spending extended days with my mother and grandmother down in Goodyear, Arizona. And quite frankly, I got about 2 or 3 houses or was headed that way, and I didn't mean to, where you just, it's like you're in the scene of The Godfather, where Michael Corleone comes out of the bathroom, starts firing, and then drops the gun. Well, I'm on the tee box. I hook it left, and you just immediately drop the weapon. And you just, oh, no. But no damage done. Numbers to get in, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Can find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, Chris Schmidt at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, and can email Chris at HailVarsity.com. Spring football is back. We heard yesterday Elijah did a great job, and big thanks to Connor as well. Monday, Connor Clark. We heard from Mickey Joseph and Bill Bush yesterday. We'll hear from some of the players today, i.e. that receiver room, Omar Manning, Alante, Brown here in a little bit. NFL on our mind with the Tariq Hill news. Some fun thoughts on Urban Meyer that I didn't have a chance to get to till today with the expose by the Athletic story on Urban. So we can get there. Mike Babcock and Mike Schuhart this hour. Andy Markowski to talk a little tournament and, where Nebraska goes to fill the spots by Doc Sadler. And I know that position was eliminated, but you still need a mind on the bench, and also the Abdel Massi news. So we'll go all that direction here in 1 hour with Andy Markowski, former Husker. And that's what's up. So open phones to get in as well, and plenty to get to. How are you doing? I did not bring Arizona weather with me. It's cold, it's snowy, it's kind of gross out, but it'll be better by the weekend. You hanging in all right? The stash looks is wonderful as ever. It's a little more Magnum PI every time I see it, and it's going well. But you've been playing hurt. You've been playing well, but you've been playing hurt.
Well, I've been dealing through it, playing through the pain. I was saying yesterday, this is my miniature version of the Jordan flu game. Yeah, playing through. But today, haven't even had any cold and flu medicine in me, so I'm feeling much better today. I think I'm through the worst of it. This weekend, I was saying yesterday, it was terrible, but I'm feeling much better today. Ready to get back on the baseball diamond. I had to miss my first baseball doubleheader of the season on Saturday. I was sitting at home watching college basketball. That's not the worst punishment, but
no. But you were not far from where you needed to be to take care of yourself.
Yeah, this has got to be the worst I have felt since I had mono in like 6th grade. I had mono in 6th grade, and that was pretty bad. But then this one was bad. Maybe this is just how like getting sick feels when you get older. Maybe I didn't appreciate my 17-year-old immune system enough whenever I had it. But yes, I was like, this weekend, I was like, man, I hope this isn't what just getting sick whenever I'm past the age of 20 feels like.
Yeah, it's worse as you get older, man. It's worse as you get older. Let's talk a little Nebraska football to get started. And tomorrow, I want to remind you, we'll be down at Longwell's for the Sweet 16. We're live 4 to 6. We'll lead you right in to NCAA tournament coverage. So we want to see you down at Longwell's. You want to sneak on down, please do so. Get a beer, get some grub, and enjoy with the just the incredibleness of Longwell's and their giant screen, and it is made for you. And I know a ton of you went out for opening round action with Hooksy and Will and the morning hookup and Elijah. Thank you for doing that.
So one of you probably gave me the flu.
Well, or not. Maybe it was in your living room. I don't know. But the long and short is we're there tomorrow 4 to 6 ahead of Sweet 16. We're there Friday 4 to 6. So road shows for Hale Varsity down in the rail yard at Longwell's. Want to see you there, and some great ball games tomorrow night. And of course, you've got that UCLA Carolina matchup looming on Friday, which is great. And of course, Husker baseball, they'll be hosting Michigan. Chance to get back on track. We'll talk with Mike Babcock about some Husker baseball. But spring football, Frosty and you'll have Raiola tomorrow, which will be great, and more news. How's the week back been, right? And you hear a lot of the same things, and that is optimism, that is hope springing eternal with spring football, with session. And I would bet a large percentage of the Nebraska fan base is just in total prove-it mode. It's been 4 years of expectations of want to and then not happening for various different reasons. And the question is why. Tell me why this is going to be different. And I'm not going to get my heart put out like a Marlboro Red until I see some wins. So why is it going to be better this time? And change can be good, right? And change is a reality in the form of new position coaches. Change is different with a coordinator in Mark Whipple. You still have some of the old guard with a little bit of shifting on the defensive line with Dawson. But overall, it's a new look on offense, and that can be okay. It's a new look at quarterback. It's a new look in the running back room. You have some of the same faces in the wide receiver room, and I think that's okay too because of the potential and the talent. And you want that potential to translate on Saturdays, and you've seen flashes of it. You saw Omar Manning make a lot of big plays, just not enough of them. And that's the question. Why is Omar not on the field more? Where's Alante Brown been? He got in against Northwestern back during the COVID season, and then, milk carton. And that has to do with your position group and your rotation and what are you doing in practice and what are you doing to get on the field. And there's just no more, I don't want to say jacking around, but we'll hear some comments in a moment. But just from an energy standpoint, and to me, really, it's a leadership style. You've got a very direct leadership style, and you've got a guy in Mickey Joseph that is it's old hat for him to make connections with every kid and figure out their personality, figure out what kind of makes their clock wind. And it sounds like he's done a wonderful job of that because he's got great experience at that. And listen, I have no dislike towards Coach Lubick. I have no dislike towards Troy Walters, who is a really good coach if you ask any of the coaches we have on because of where he's been and guys, playing for a Super Bowl or coaching for a Super Bowl with Cincinnati was Zach Taylor. So clearly Troy Walters can coach. Mickey Joseph, though, is at this level of he's been at different spots, he's been at different stops, and then he's been in the SEC. He's been in the big time, and he has been able to get out of guys that come in already at a super high level, but they leave with an even higher level. That advertisement is priceless when it comes to getting buy-in. And I think that's the biggest difference is you're probably getting way more buy-in from an Omar Manning and Alante Brown and you're being held accountable by Mickey Joseph because Mickey doesn't care. Mickey isn't going to jack around. Mickey's not going to stroke you. This is how it's going to. This is how it's going to go. This is how it's going to be, or you're not playing. And I will find somebody else that's as good or better than you, i.e., Trey Palmer, and he's coming up from LSU. So that accountability and what you're asking your kids to do, and then getting them to do. So there is a little bit less lip service to me this time around as to why is it going to be different, right? Why is it going to be different for Nebraska in 2022 versus the last 4 seasons? Why is this year going to be different? And I think you look at the changes and the effect that it is having in spring, just from guys that are willing to talk about, not bash, not stay focused in the rearview mirror on what was versus what hasn't happened or the why. It's new. It's different. There's a new sheriff in town, and these are Mickey Joseph's rules. These are Coach Donnie Raiola's rules. This is Mark Whipple's rule. And from a leadership standpoint, it just depends on the guy. And the shining example of self-motivated is Amir Abdullah. Amir Abdullah came in, loved his position coach, but earned it as a 3-star, and you saw what Amir did in Lincoln. There's very few Amir Abdullahs walking around where they are self-driven. As the coach, as the adult, you've got to get out of your kid in your position group that Amir Abdullah talent. Very few come in mature enough to work out on a Friday night, even in high school, just as an example. They're that driven. They're that dedicated. You're the adult. You're the coach. You got to find ways to get it out and get the buy-in. And I think that is happening. That is happening. Let's hear a little bit from Omar. Is this Omar or Alante? This is Omar from yesterday after practice.
From the time I got here to now, you can see the change in intensity. Like he's not gonna let us come to practice and be like lackadaisical. It's never gonna be there with Mickey. You know, if we're not ready, he's gonna get on our tail. You know, that's just how he is.
So what was allowed? What was allowed to happen in the wide receiver room? Just as an example, going off of Omar's comments, I mean, it's just different and it's better because of the intensity, the demand, the requirement needed, and that's good news for Nebraska. When it comes to the rest of the receiver room, you have Alante Brown as well. We'll hear from in a second. But, Omar, you've seen glimpses. He's going to be asked to do a lot this year. I think he can be a monster matchup issue for defenses in the slot. And a little bit more from Omar here about his path in Nebraska, because Omar's a guy that's been in the program 3 years, and you're waiting for him to have kind of that takeover type season.
Now my first year I didn't play. Last year I feel like I got a footing in this offense. And not returning this year. I'm just gonna build off that. I'm not even worried about the pass. Everything right now is moving forward, and it's going great.
So let's get a little bit of the energy topic here from Alante Brown. And he's a guy that is electric. He's quick. He's going to be good in space. He can also be a game changer for Nebraska.
The energy from last year, come from us. We will start the energy. We have to start the energy. If Mickey comes in and let's go, I don't expect nothing less than this. We're held to that standard, and we want to succeed that standard. So.
It's kind of safe to say you've clicked with Mickey?
Yes, everybody has. Most definitely.
So we're talking about the Nebraska receivers. Quickly to the NFL news. Tariq Hill, this was straight up ego. He wanted to be the highest paid player in the NFL at wide receiver. He now is, with $72 million guaranteed to Miami. He was offered 5 years, $160 million with plenty guaranteed. But what screwed this up is Davante Adams being the highest paid receiver in football momentarily, i.e. in the same division when he went to Vegas. Talks broke down between the Chiefs. So there's not a single bigger game breaker in football. Think of the Buffalo game, where you throw a middle screen and you get into field goal range. or he takes it to the house. Think of the impact Tariq Hill had where it took two guys to bracket him, and it still didn't matter. Up the middle. He stretched defenses crazy. That allowed Kelsey, who's still great, to get open. I think the Chiefs can still be a playoff team. They turned into a more methodical offense last year where you saw 12 to 15 play drives. They can still lean on the running game. They still have Juju coming in. They've got Hardman, all right. Is he ready for prime time? Hardman's similar to Hill with his skill set. But this, to me, is just a death blow. You have the rest of the AFC West adding different pieces, major pieces to topple the kingdom. And Tariq Hill is a guy that is irreplaceable. Everyone's replaceable, but his skill set is so unique that it's a major blow to Kansas City. They got value for him now versus maybe a couple of years later. He's 28. They got 5 draft picks, first, second, and fourth round. And there's a ton of NFL wideout or really high-level wideouts in this draft. Mm-hmm. But they don't make Tariq Hills, period, because of his speed in space and how it fit perfectly. And, oh, yeah, that scramble drill between him and Mahomes that was undefeated. Mike Babcock's on the way. Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price of $29.99. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And we're back.
Fellas, you think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes, that's awesome.
More thoughts on Tariq Hill to Miami. And Steve Atwater's one-on-one with Randy Gregory, the newest Bronco wearing number 5. Historian, author, Hall of Famer Mike Babcock with us at MD Babs on Twitter. Babbers, what do you know? How are you?
Well, all these guys changing teams and stuff, you got to keep a notepad, right? So you know what's gonna happen come fall.
No, you kind of do, and I'm just shaking my head a little bit here of, can the Chiefs' offense still be great? Yeah. Will it be as great? I don't know. I think this is a big deal just because of how special Hill. And listen, one guy doesn't make a team or an offense, but it really helps. I guess is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I hate to see the Chiefs lose Tariq Hill.
Elijah's partying,
man. It's the worst. I can't believe Tariq Hill's out of the division. Whatever am I going to do?
You're going to celebrate and hope you don't see him in the playoffs. As a closet Dolphins fan, I don't think great. It's still Tua throwing the football to him. He's either going to be on his back or icing his knee. You know, he's. I got to see more from Tua in year 3, but they're putting more pieces around him. Babbers, what did you think of yesterday as Nebraska got back at it after spring football? We spent a little time to start the show off about the mindset of Nebraska fans. Why is it really going to be different this year? Well, the first part of this year is winter conditioning, and then the second mile marker is the spring football part. You've got some new faces, you have some old faces. But from a position group standpoint, it sounds and feels like that there definitely is some new and maybe some better with Mickey Joseph at the receiver spot. Just what he's getting out of his guys.
Yeah, well, I'm a Mickey Joseph fan, as I probably said, but he was very frank about it yesterday. He said, you're here to win. That's it. I mean, he has passion for Nebraska. He said that's always been the case since he's played here and whatever, but he said the bottom line is you got to win. And, I think that he's having that hard edge kind of approach with the receivers. He expects that from the receivers themselves, and there are a lot of guys in the mix. So, we talk about this always, but optimism is the characteristic of spring football, and we'll see what happens come fall. But right now it looks like it's a good thing from the standpoint of that receivers room and what Mickey Joseph has got going in terms of how he's going to coach this football team.
Well, and his coaching and also being able to connect from a different personality and get the most out of your kids. And you've been waiting on a larger role from Omar Manning. You've been waiting on any role from Alante Brown because both guys have been in the program for a while. And you've seen really good flashes from Omar, but you want to see that on a consistent basis. And it sounds like Alante is a guy that has really picked up on Mickey's messaging, coaching style, and then doing what's asked.
Yeah, that's true. And, another Brody Belt's name comes up a lot. And to me, that's reflective of, again, Mickey Joseph's approach. This guy might be a walk-on player or whatever. You might not, when you start putting down the list of receivers, you might not necessarily think of his name very early on. But Mickey Joseph has said some good things about him, and I think that reflects how things are going in terms of practice and Mickey's approach.
Yeah, Mike, one thing that was a little bit interesting from the presser yesterday is we learned that Alante Brown's primarily been working on the outside and Omar Manning's primarily been working on the inside, which seems a little bit backwards based on what we've seen in the past couple of years here at Nebraska. But I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of football of do you think it can work, but do you think maybe that these new ideas and new new perspectives we're seeing from these new coaching staffs are going to pay dividends in that way? And that, we haven't really seen Omar in the slot. We've really seen Alante out wide. Maybe this is what is best for them, and it just took new coaches to see it.
Yeah, maybe it is, and that's what you hope. That's what you expect from new coaches. They look at it with a clear eye and say, here's the way we're going to take a look at it. And the spring, that's what happens in the spring. You do those kinds of things, but again, we'll see what happens comes fall. But right now, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic, I think.
I want to get your thought on back to Belt for a moment. I know he was a really talented kid we got to see at Millard West. And, he's had some flashes here. Mainly, he's a talking point either early in fall camp or in spring. That's where you hear his name. And then you saw him towards the end of the season where he got some reps. But has he just been needlessly gathering dust? Has he been underutilized, or is he just another off-season story?
Well, again, we'll see come fall, but certainly, and you're right. There are players over the years that have been sort of spring game stories. Really stepped up in the spring game, and then you don't see much of them when comes fall. But I think he's probably a player that we'll see in the fall. Mickey talks about 9 guys he's got that he feels good about or whatever that he's working with, and who's going to sort themselves out, do things the right way, and I think he's certainly in the mix in that sense. I get the sense that it's legitimate, that that Mickey wouldn't say things just to be saying them. He says them, he means them.
Mike, want to go to Husker baseball? Of course, the midweek game off due to weather. Michigan looms this weekend, and not quite at the halfway point, but Nebraska 3 games under 500. Still plenty of season left to shake things up and put a run together to finish high in the Big Ten standings and then do some work in postseason. 3 walk-off wins, but Sunday the 21-4 just bludgeoning by the other A&M. Where's this baseball team at this year? Why are they where they're at?
Boy, that's a head-scratcher. This team was picked to win the Big Ten, and it has not looked like a team that's even, maybe how competitive it's going to be in the Big Ten for the conference championship. I think there's a lot of questions there. I think Nebraska is at a point now where it's not so much the coaches. It's going to have to be some players in the locker room that are going to have to step up and take control and be accountable on this thing. Whether that's captains, whether that's players that aren't captains, somebody's got to step up in that locker room and say, "Hey, we got to get things going here." And the Kyle Perry thing, that's a concern. Already no Jake Bunce. The pitching has been a concern. I really feel like they've got to get somebody that can go out there and they can have confidence in to give the team some confidence on the mound. And defensively they've had breakdowns. Pretty much anything that can go wrong has gone wrong. And I think again that goes on. Somebody on the team, a player has to step up, or players have to step up in that locker room and say, "Hey, we got to get this thing going here." Because I think you're losing ground every time you have a game like that. That's a big drop right there. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, Mike, you're talking about the embarrassment factor. Have you ever seen anything like that? I mean, 23 runs scored at home against a team that isn't even a Power 5 school. Not to discount teams that aren't Power 5 in baseball. I know there's more parity in college baseball than some of the other sports, but still, it's not even a team that you think is going to be, say, making noise in the postseason by any means, and you let them put up 23 runs at your place on a rubber match on Sunday.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I saw it the other way. I think it was Chicago State came in here and got beat 50 to something.
53-3.
53-3.
The old last. Yeah, this is not a misprint Dan Patrick moment on a late Friday night Sports Center.
Yeah, that's how you have to look at that kind of score. If you said it was 21-4, it's like, oh, who Nebraska beat by that score? That's not Nebraska baseball. That's just from any standpoint, that's unacceptable, and that's not taking anything away from Texas A&M Corpus Christi. It's just a matter of fact that if you're picked to win the Big Ten preseason, and then you go out there and get beat like that, no, that's not acceptable.
There had been moments of some resilience with the 3 walk-off wins, right?
Right.
And you've got old Everett just smashing. He's been fantastic, but between errors and the rest of the lineup hitting below what they could be, pitching's an issue. I know they're young. It's a younger baseball team. You can't just carry over. It's a new team, a new season. Did this team get caught up in the headlines, do you think, or was it just miscalculated with, okay, you're asking a lot from young talent to be, Big Ten baseball ready this soon?
Yeah, probably the latter. Probably miscalculation. I mean, there's that tendency, obviously, the momentum that you have coming off the kind of season that Nebraska had last year, and you have to have some place to start. So, let's start with where they were last year, and even though the look at the guys that they lost. There's some really talented players there, not the least of whom Spencer Schwellenbach, but and Roscom and Hallmark, and I mean, you just have to take into consideration, I guess, those guys. Povich is gone, Chance Roach is gone. As you look at it now, it's like, gee, they lost a lot of talented guys, and yet they're picked to win the Big Ten. But, that's no excuse. Again, I think there has to be some accountability here because I think that they felt like they could. And, maybe they were too wrapped up in what was being said about them. But at this point, that can't be a factor because you've had things handed to you. You're not even 500. And, Texas A&M Corpus Christi is about a 500 team.
Yeah, so they have not fared well in some of their big showdowns. They've not fared well against teams that they're supposed to air quote beat and get confidence from and use to figure out roles for guys. It's just not been good all around. But we're not writing them off. Will Bolt's an incredible coach, and These guys will get better. I firmly believe that. Babbers, always great to check in with you, bud. Always love talking with you. Thanks for a few minutes with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Be safe.
All right. Mike Babcock with us. Find him on Twitter at MDBabs. And that podcast is going to be on the on-demand section, ESPNLincoln.com. We'll have a SoundCloud of Babbers coming up on the ESPN Lincoln Twitter feed. What's up with Phil? Mike Schuhart, Wilderness Ridge Golf next.
Hello, listener. This is Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price of $29.99. That means that you, for less than $20, get everything we produce, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thoughts on the NCAA tournament and where Nebraska goes on their bench with the basketball program. Andy Markowski, 25 minutes away. We say hi to Mike Schuhart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Shuey, I tried to bring some of that Arizona golf weather back for you this week, and I know Monday looked all right for you guys, but hey, I did what I could. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. You didn't do a very good job of bringing that warm weather back, that's for sure.
Well, it sliced away. Let's just say I almost found some patios or two. But to my defense, it's a narrow course down there at Eagle's Nest in Goodyear. I drove it well for me, and I putted horribly. It's like I had a blindfold and a cigarette going.
Oh, no.
But, you can't have it all, Shuey. You can't have it all. I got to ask you, with Bryson's first tee shot here, with the match play going on, it ended up in a tent. What's the craziest tee shot you've witnessed on tour in a bad way? Like, oh, no, he did that?
Probably. A guy hit it in the tents.
Okay.
And instead of taking relief from the tents, he actually played it out of the tent, over the railing on the green. So it was quite amazing.
So how did that even, into the clown's mouth, right? How did can you say who it was?
God, I can't remember who it was. It was just a guy that I played with in an event that was a nobody.
Okay.
That we were playing, and he hit a big old hook off the tee, and it rattled around in the bleachers, and he was sitting up there, and it was actually really pretty good position, and his drop would have been worse than where he played it from. So they moved a few chairs, and he just hit it right off the the top of the bleachers, literally over the railing and on the green.
Man, what's the most trouble you had to get out of?
Oh my gosh, I've been in all kinds of trouble before. I can't even think of how many times I've had to try to figure out how am I going to get out of this. So I'll tell you a story. So I'm playing, and my good buddy, I played at Whistling Straits, and one of my good buddies was caddying for me, and it was a PGA, and we were on the 8th hole, and I hit it just off the fairway in one of their deep bunkers down there, and I had like 200-some yards left, and I'm like, I can get that on the green. So I looked at him, I said, you like this club? He says, well, I like that club if you plan on making an 8. So wow. Probably wasn't the wisest choice. Sometimes we think that we're a little more capable of doing what we think we can do than what's probably prudent for the situation. So needless to say, I didn't hit that shot. I kind of hit it out to the side and knocked it on. And I made a 5 instead of an 8. And he was probably right. I probably would have still been there.
I love that. Mike Schuhart's with us, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Shuey, let's get your thought here on Phil and not competing in the 22 Masters.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I thought that would be his first tournament actually back, but I think the backlash that he took, I think he kind of felt like he needed to stay away for a little longer period of time to let the dust settle a little bit before he decided when it was the right time for him to come back, and obviously he decided that it wasn't the right time quite yet.
With Phil, is that a situation where he's the one making the call, or is it Augusta National that might be saying, maybe you should hang out a little longer?
No, that's Phil making that call, you know, because with his, track record there at Augusta, I mean, Phil's better off. The tournament's better with Phil in the field than not. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question. That's Phil's call there, not playing.
So should we tell us what's happening at Wilderness, how the construction's going, what's spring looking like, what's the clubhouse situation? Give us an update, man.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, they are working like crazy, kind of all kinds of different things going on. We just reopened our the dining area, so that looks absolutely stunning. So if you haven't had a chance to get out and to see it, you need to. I mean, it's beautiful, and they're working crazy downstairs. They're out working on the pool no matter what, putting a new deck on. So they got, their work going on everywhere, and it's moving right along. So now we're just waiting for some golf weather to hit, and we'll be rolling.
Are the fairways starting to get green again with this rain you've been seeing the last couple of days?
Yeah, it's been interesting because my office in our new pro shop and academy, I have a big window that I get to look right out over the first tee and down 18 and 17, and you can see a lot of green starting to pop just in the last couple of days. So we get a little warm weather, we start to get a few mows out there, and things will start greening up. So excited.
Sure. We had Coach Bill Bush yesterday meeting with the media. Said he stuck his specialists out in the elements yesterday, had him go kick and punt in the rain and the wind. And he said that came from his golf buddies who said sometimes you got to get out in the rain and play some golf to get the practice. And is that a theory you subscribe to? Do you think you need to get out in the rain, out in the wind, out in the elements to improve your game?
Very much so. I listened to that press conference, and that was very insightful of him because it is very true, because you don't, playing outside, an outdoor sport, it's very unpredictable on what you're going to get. So it's like you need to figure out and get comfortable learning how to play in all those kind of conditions. So, and me personally, I like to play in the bad weather because if you have a really nice day, then it's even that much easier, So if you're out playing in the wind and the rain and the things coming sideways, and you can be okay in that, when you don't have that, and that means it's just that much easier. So I really kind of enjoyed listening to that press conference and him kind of using some golf analogies in there and references. Made a lot of sense.
Schmidt, we got to go stick you out in the rain sometime for one of these shows and prove your radio game.
No, I've been in every type of weather in my brief career. South Dakota playoff football game blizzard, all right, where there's snot frozen on one side and you can't enunciate or pronunciate because your mouth's frozen.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, brother, I've done it. I don't know where that tape is at to prove it, but I was wearing sleeves, though. Shuey's probably rolling sleeves up, going old black shirts there in the bad weather. But I get what Bush is saying, Shuey, and I know what you're saying. Can you, A, mentally get through inclement conditions, and B, if you can survive that, you can survive anything?
Yeah, pretty much. And that's what I said, and then when I was out practicing and when I actually would then welcome some of those conditions because I knew that you're going to eliminate a lot of the field already because they're not ready for it mentally more than anything, They're like, man, why are we playing? You hear that all the time, and I'm like, man, I want to go play in that because that's eliminating some of your competition right there just because of the elements. So it's like I learned to embrace that and enjoy it as opposed to not wanting to be out there.
Shuey, real quick, how's your Final Four looking for the NCAA tournament?
Well, the very first game I watched, I was already done. So I had Iowa winning the whole thing.
Oh, no.
I'm watching Iowa go down in the first game, so I'm like, oh, there goes my bracket.
That's what you get for rooting for Iowa.
Iowa and Kentucky. So it's like, I had those two going. So pretty much after the first hour of basketball, I was done.
Hey, it's all right. There's always next year. Mike Schuart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Shuey, we'll come see you soon, bud. Thanks for a few minutes.
You bet. Glad to be back.
All right, man. Good to see you.
Safe.
You too.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me. Try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Winding down this first hour, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Give us a find on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. More with Eddie Markowski in 10 minutes on Nebraska basketball's next steps and his thoughts on the Sweet 16. We're down to Longwells tomorrow, 4 to 6, kicking off the Sweet 16 Thursday and Friday, 4 to 6, down in the rail yard. Come on by, come see us, and pop on over before Nebraska baseball as they get ready to rock and roll with Michigan. I'm correct that it's at Haymarket. I've been gone about a week. I'm back. It's Nebraska, Michigan. That's a huge series. It's in Lincoln.
Yes.
I just getting it all put back together. First day back, shaking the cobwebs a bit. So there we go. More on Tariq Hill and his trade to Miami. What's that mean for the Chiefs? And we'll have some more football thoughts with spring as Nebraska now 2 weeks or so away from the spring game in April. Reminder to get buckled up. Game preparation and repetition predict success in winning. Drivers and vehicle passengers who always use their seatbelts will increase their survival chances. If a crash should happen, remember to always buckle up. This message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Words of wisdom from one Will Compton. Bleep almighty, seniors in high school getting deals better than quarterbacks in the NFL. Sports Illustrated reporting that the class of 2023 football recruits signed NIL deals potentially worth over $8 million. Got to hedge your bets, man.
Which business owner in Lincoln listening to the show right now is going to start putting together their package for Dylan Raiola? That's the question.
Hey, he's at Arizona today, visiting the Wildcats. Listen, if you don't get him with a successful 2022 season to still be here, first of all. Second of all, you've got Pickett in where he ends up in the draft. You got a track record with Big Ben as the OC. Got a great relationship with Papa, all right? Donovan being a big-time Nebraska guy. Your uncle is your O-line coach. All those things are lining up for you.
And I mean,
all you got to do is win and show that you can have high-level quarterback play. You had decent quarterback play. Wasn't as consistent as you'd liked, all right, with Adrian. Not all on him. But he wasn't perfect either, plus the injury factor, all right? So there's that. But for Nebraska, and I know you're going up against Ohio State. I know you're going up against Bama. I know you're going up against USC, right? You think of the quarterback schools that are out there, Texas. Nebraska's got an angle, and it's a better angle than most, to go get him. But what are you going to do from a development standpoint with the transfer portal addition you got in Casey, with a win, if he wins the job, when he wins the job, depending on what camp you're in? What are you going to do with a guy like Harburg, who's got all the skills and the tools to be really good? You've got Torres. You know, put some proof, some film out there, and you have a chance to do that this year. Hour 2 is on the way with Hail Varsity. Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity, and I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Thanks for hanging out. It's Hour 2, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We welcome in the Pride of Ord Husker basketball standout. We'll get his take on the Sweet 16 and what's next for the Big Red. Andy Markowski with us. Find him on Twitter at Markowski_Andy. Andy, what are you doing? How are you?
Not too bad, Schmidt. I'm actually in rainy Chicago, so got in this morning for a couple days. So the weather's no different here than it is back home, I think.
Well, I was in sunny Arizona, and I had a brief sprinkle/dust storm. I'm thinking Sunday, but for the most part, it was awesome, and I wish I would have sent it your way and brought some of it here. Unable to do that. Andy, let's get your take on the Nebraska women to start off with, and tough one against Gonzaga, back and forth ball game, tight one at half, and a little too much zags in the end. But overall, what was your takeaway with this season?
Yeah, a great season. Certainly disappointing to maybe not play your best basketball in the tournament. But credit Gonzaga. I think it was a tough draw with a veteran team that had a lot of NCAA tournament experience, and I think that showed. But a lot to build on. Potentially the starting five late in the year, all has a chance to come back. So I think they built some momentum, did a lot of good things. And, right now there's 4, Big Ten teams, women teams in the Sweet 16, and Nebraska has 2 wins against that. So it tells them that they're close, but they'll probably need to add a couple more pieces and another good offseason of skill work, and hopefully they can run it back next year.
Andy Markowski's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Flipping it around, what do you make of the Big Ten's men's squads and their performance in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I'm not as critical as most. I mean, if you look at the seeding, we were projected to have 3 teams into the Sweet 16, right? Iowa was a 5 seed. Certainly them getting upset was a surprise, but it wasn't to me. I think that's always hard, when you win a conference tournament and then they caught a Thursday 2:00 draw. I wish the NCAA tournament committee would do a better job with that, and maybe the teams that had to play on Sunday, should be kind of grandfathered in to play a Friday game just to give them a little bit more recovery. I thought Iowa, looked tired, but credit, Michigan had a good showing, and then, obviously Purdue is kind of carrying the banner with maybe the one team that has the capabilities of getting to a Final Four. But in the end, when you have a 6 and a 7 and a 9 and a 10, those teams aren't going to get to the Sweet 16. That's just not how it's set up. And everybody loves to see Cinderella stories, but I thought Illinois is probably the most disappointing. I thought their physicality would be able to hold up against Houston, and it didn't. So that was probably my biggest surprise. But the fact that they have 2 teams in the Sweet 16, I still think is a fair showing, and I think Purdue has a good draw to get to the Elite 8.
We'll get back to the Sweet 16 in a moment. Andy, when it turned to Nebraska basketball and Sam Griesel coming back home, he was a high-level player in high school, loved covering him. Was really excited to see how well he performed at North Dakota State, and now is leaving there to head back to Lincoln. A thought on Sam and what he can do for Fred and Fred's offense.
Yeah, local kid, you always love to see local, whether it be Lincoln or Nebraska kids stay home. I thought in high school, it was probably a stretch for Sam to play BCS basketball. He needed to get a little better with the ball in his hand and get a little stronger. And, I think his experience at North Dakota State and just his work ethic over those 4 years, really allowed him to flourish and become a very good basketball player. I had a chance to spend some time with the Nebraska staff Tuesday morning, and I think their plans for Sam is to put the ball in his hands as a veteran guard. He became a playmaker for North Dakota State. His last couple of years in his career, and hopefully that can kind of stabilize that point guard decision-making spot for Nebraska, which at times, the consistency just wasn't there with Verge and Webster, and adding a 22-year-old fifth-year senior that is probably a team-first guy. Hopefully that's the first piece to a great offseason.
What was it? Brunch? Was it a little OJ? Was it just Andy shooting, playing horse? I mean, tell me a little more about Tuesday with the staff.
No, just it was just one assistant, and I got caught up. And they're trying to do a great job of reaching out, reconnecting, and Coach Linser and I just talked shop for an hour. So it was great to have some time and get to see kind of behind the curtains a little bit with their vision. And I'm always willing to help and add value where I can. And I think that's what an alumni relationship looks like. But yeah, they were super excited to add that piece. And obviously they have some more pieces to add to try to rebuild this group to be a little bit more competitive in the Big Ten next season.
Few minutes here. Andy Markowski spending time with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Big Red Basketball on our mind. So you have Nebraska and Coach Abdelmassih parting ways. There's an opening and a need for kind of that ace recruiter spot on Fred's staff. You also have Doc moving on with his position being eliminated. Where can Nebraska turn to on their bench? Last time we talked, there had been nothing officially announced. Now there's one opening, and then you want a veteran guy as well in some capacity on staff. And the last part of this question, do you think Doc's just going to retire, or do you think Doc finds his way back down to KU or Iowa State? Or what do you think? What do you think? I'm serious. What do you think Doc's future looks like?
Yeah, it's who knows with Doc? I think Doc loves people. I mean, he loves basketball. There's a value that he can provide somebody. I don't think Doc is probably doing this for money anymore, right? I mean, he had a good run at Nebraska and in a buyout, and then was a head coach at another stop. So my guess is, knowing Doc, he's gonna land on a staff in some capacity that probably doesn't require him to travel and recruit and do a lot of the off the court stuff. But with his history and experience with some great coaches through the years, I'm betting he'll land somewhere, just because he loves the game, and he's well networked, and there's a lot of people that would welcome his knowledge, especially on the defensive end, into their team huddles and coaches meetings.
Yeah, so I'm kind of on the same page with you. Doc isn't done. He'll be somewhere. But overall, when it comes to the appeal here, Andy, of where Fred can go, you've got a lot of staff shakeups already. You have different transitions. Is there a line of guys that are excited to maybe work with Hoiberg here in this upcoming season, knowing that you need to win, but it's fluid with what's coming back versus what's departed?
Yeah, I think last time we spoke, it's Nebraska. I think they're going to pay a going rate. They need an assistant that can do everything, right? I think when you have three full-time assistants, you need to have people that can recruit. You need people that can coach offense, people that can coach defense. I mean, you need a coach that can bring a lot of different areas to that position. I mean, if you're married with 4 kids and you don't want to move a bunch, that person's probably not looking at Nebraska as a great move in their career. But there's a lot of other assistant coaches that are hungry, would love to spend a year with Fred, a guy that really knows offense and knows NBA caliber offense, where we're all looking to expand and grow. So I'm confident that list will be long of talented people that can bring value to the program. I think Fred's challenge is finding that right fit, finding somebody that maybe can bring some things on the defensive side to help them, maybe some knowledge of the Big Ten, and certainly a 6'11" center that can hold up in the Big Ten would be nice as well. So, the assistants have connections to players, whether they recruited them to another school or they're in the transfer portal and they had a relationship. So I'm sure Fred's analyzing all that and trying to figure out who who and who brings the most variables and can help with the pieces to help them win next year, right? It's not like Fred has a 5-year window here. They're going to have to add some. I think the point guard position got addressed. They need to make sure they hang on to some of their wings, but they need to get better on the front line. So I'm assuming the assistant coach is going to have some responsibility or value in that area. Is if they don't address their front line, they're going to have a hard time winning the league again next year.
So that's pretty much on the resume, right? Like, okay, when it comes to the job title listing, need you to bring badass dude for Big Ten wrestling matches in the paint. Is that right, Andy? Is that how it's worded?
Well, if I was submit my resume knowing their need, I would certainly highlight that, Chris, on my resume that I had a 7-footer ready to sign once I got the job. So.
What do you think of Bryce and his declaration? What have you seen? What have you heard from folks at the next level with Bryce's projections?
Yeah, I haven't personally talked to anyone. I've tried to gauge kind of where the different people I respect in the business, and I do think he's a first-round pick. I don't think he's a lottery pick. I think somebody will take a chance on him in the 20s and 30s. The great thing about basketball, not like the NFL combine, you actually get to go play and compete against each other. And in football, it's you can't really do that. You're going off measurable. So they're going to put him into some workouts, into some different combine situations where he's going to have a chance to go and work against other guys considered first-round draft picks. So the better he does in those environments, he has a chance to move up in that early 20 range. But I think probably late 20s is where I see him settling, which is still great. Go in and develop, get stronger, commit your whole day to nutrition and basketball, and not have to balance the academic side like they do in college. And once the NBA, year 4 or 5, they hope they hit on young talent so they can sign up to that next big contract.
Eddie Markowski with us, Hail Varsity Radio, talking Big Red basketball. Eduardo into the portal. What retention do you anticipate, or can you at this point with what's back for Nebraska?
Yeah, I'm not going to get in the minds of all the players. I think you can kind of go through and figure out which kids were getting utilized late in the year. Which kids were having some success. Which kids worked. And if you're just not playing, or you were playing and you kind of moved to the bench, and the people in front of you are still on the roster. I think kids leave for a lot of reasons. So, you start to look at a few of the wings that didn't play. I don't anticipate them being back. I thought Andre had a chance to potentially, play a little bit more next year. But obviously, I don't know if the system fit him great either. So they're going to have turnover. But, this day and age, if you can replace them with veteran guys like Sam Griesel that have some winning and some culture and some high level success, you can fix things quickly, but you also can miss like they've done the last couple of years on a few of these transfers.
Andy, let's talk Sweet 16. Do you think Gonzaga survives the weekend? Let me ask that. They have Arkansas, you got Nova, Michigan, Texas Tech, Duke, and then how about Arizona? They got scared by TCU. Kelvin and company, wait for them tomorrow night.
Yeah, there's kind of 3 games I'm looking at. I think Duke can beat Gonzaga. However, I don't think Duke can beat Texas Tech. So to answer your question, Gonzaga will get through if Texas Tech beats Duke, but I think Duke matches up pretty good at Gonzaga. I'm interested in the Arizona-Houston game. Houston was a little bit more tougher and physical than maybe I thought. I think the question mark on Arizona is, they really surprised everybody being a 1 seed, so that's an intriguing game to me. And then the blue blood game with UCLA and North Carolina, it's kind of fun to see those. North Carolina's been relatively down, not down by North Carolina standards. To see them back in the Sweet 16 playing UCLA is kind of a fun game to reminisce and think about the great teams both of those programs have had.
What about the Cinderella story of the Sweet 16 in St. Peter's? St. Peter's,
yeah. The old Peacocks.
They're going up against Purdue. Is Purdue mortal?
They've played really well. You got to give them credit. They've been a tough group. I picked Purdue to win it all, so I think that hopefully their Cinderella story stops. So least I have one team to save my bracket because the other side hasn't been very productive.
The U and Iowa State. We got a 10-11 shakedown going Friday for the nightcap on TBS. Iowa State's played great defense, and old Larinaga got the extension, and he's making Miami look pretty smart.
Yeah, crazy. Jim was at Bowling Green at one point, and I coached there, so got to know him and his son Jay, which is in the NBA now. So funny, I would have guessed Jim would have retired a decade ago, right? He seems to be, took George Mason to the Final Four as a mid-major. So obviously he could coach. But how about Iowa State, right? Picked last in the Big 12 by a lot of the preseason polls, and to be in the Sweet 16 shows you that you can turn basketball teams around pretty quickly with the right pieces. So that gives you hope that maybe a rebuild doesn't take 3 or 4 years. So fun to see some local Kansas and Iowa State and some area teams in the Sweet 16.
You going to Gibson's tonight for a filet?
I'm not. It's some prime steakhouse. So I always chuckle. I come here and order an $80 filet, and it comes from Nebraska that we can buy for $25. So not exactly a real economical choice eating downtown Chicago.
Well, enjoy, Andy. Thanks for squeezing us in, bud. We'll talk soon. You take care, okay?
All right. Thanks, fellas.
There he is. Andy Markowski with us. We'll talk Tariq Hill to the fish.
Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity. And I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Open phones here if you want to chime in, 466-377-6800-825-5865. Tariq Hill off to Miami. It's the big story today. You have Chief fans freaking out on social media. Totally get it. And ego, the culprit here. It's not that KC didn't or wouldn't pay him. 4 years, $120 million, $72.2 million guaranteed by Miami. The Chiefs get 5 draft picks. The 29th pick, the 50th pick, and the 4th round selection for 2022, a 4th and a 6th in 2023. Yeah, the extension that was offered by the Chiefs to be one of the highest paid wideouts in pro football, but not the highest paid wideout in his own division. Devontae Adams' deal with the Raiders screwed that up. Can you replace? We're all replaceable, but specifically with this offense, I mean, I put the difficulty to air quote replace Tariq Hill at like 11 out of 10, not 7 out of 10. That's how much he means, because it opens up the rest of the offense where you send him on a skiddy post. And, the safety's freaking out. Got to pay attention. On top of the defensive back, Kelsey is great, got open because of Tariq Hill. You had the dig routes for whoever was playing your wideout on the outside was more open. You had the swing passes, the checkdowns that were more open to Clyde and company because of Tariq Hill. On top of the perfect fit for this offense with Hill and his skill set, where you could just dump it to him on a flat route and watch him go because he's insanely good after the catch. You have Smith-Schuster, you have Hardman.
Still have Kelsey.
You have Kelsey. They're all gonna have to be great. And I mean, you have more of a slowed down, methodical 9 to 12 play drive Chiefs second half of the year. That's what they turned into. They can always reinvent. But think of the scramble drill. How Your heart was in your throat if your team was playing the Chiefs and Mahomes got flushed. Guess what? Guess who was working back or getting Mahomes' attention, and it turned into a bomb? Think of the Buffalo game. As great a football game as that is and was, it was Hill that was the game changer, the difference maker, and he's matchup hell. Do the Chiefs get worse? I don't know. I think he's worth a game or two. The rest of the division's gotten better. And while I understand the throwing a ton of money at him, the fact that he pretty much put the phone down because he wasn't the highest paid guy, that's on him. Hot take, this will probably it'll turn out and have a great finish career-wise in Miami. But I think, who needs who more? Who made who? And my question and answer is this. I think Hill really made the Chiefs, but I think everything around Hill with the Chiefs is gone. We can talk about Miami being better. We can talk about Miami's receiving core. We can talk about the Dolphins' better offensive line. We can talk about the Miami's running game. You're trading Tua for Mahomes. And Tua may have a nice career. Tua may get to a Pro Bowl or a playoff or a Super Bowl. But what you had was perfect, tailored to you with help around you. And you may listen from a negotiating standpoint, not many, if any, can do what Hill does in that offense in this situation. That's reason enough to pay the guy. But Kansas City's always been good, very, very good at drafting, developing, and scouting, finding the Tariq Hills of the world. Nicole Hartman's a quick twitch, just freak athlete in space. Hill's what we've seen for the last 6 years. Baggage and all, he's been incredible. And of an 11-man defensive alignment, he still beats 2 or 3 of your guys. And if you focus 2 or 3 guys on him, Kelsey's waiting there to break one off and walk off. But now that's gone. Kansas City will adjust, but they took a major, major hit short-term by losing him.
I don't know how short-term until the NFL draft, I think. But I think they have enough draft capital that whichever wide receiver they like in the draft this year, they can go get. I'm not saying I think they're going to go trade up and move up for a guy just because of how deep this wide receiver class is.
There's a lot of guys in this class, but you're not going to find him. You're not going to find the same skill set. No, fastest guy in the NFL that is insane after the catch.
You're never going to replace that like for like, but I think the Chiefs are hedging their bet, or not hedging their bet. They're making the bet here that it wasn't Tariq Hill that made Patrick Mahomes great. It was Patrick Mahomes that made Tariq Hill so great. And I think they're just going to make the bet here that this offense will still be fine. It may not be as dynamic, but it'll still be fine with another very good wide receiver in that same spot. Because I don't think you're right, no one is going to replace Tariq Hill. But I think you can find guys that can still keep that offense running, and then it gives you the ability to go invest more into your defense, let's say. It gives you the ability to distribute your money in other ways among that roster. I think it's going to work out fine. I think in 3 years you look back on this trade, and I think you're going to say the Chiefs won this over the Dolphins.
Chiefs survived it.
I think in, let's say, 365 days from now, you might look back at this trade and go, not sure what the Chiefs were thinking. But I think give it 3-4 years with all the picks that they got, I think the Chiefs are going to come out the winner of this trade. Because, I mean, look at the receivers in the draft. You can have Chris Olave fall to you without moving up. George Pickens from Georgia, a freak, can fall to you. Watson from North Dakota State. I love that kid. He's going to be incredible. There's so many wide receivers.
But Hill's 4.2 in pads and can stop on a dime and then accelerate 0 to 60 like he's a Corvette or Ferrari, or pick your favorite sports car. Ken emails in Chris@HaleVarsity.com. Tua's no Mahomes. Gesicki's no Kelsey. It was overpayment. Very, very good take. Miami did overpay, but they
got Speed City going now down there.
Well, that's fine, but you still got Tua throwing you the football or on his back attempting to throw you the football. The rest of the West got better. Russell and Randy to Donkey Land. You have Khalil Mack with the Chargers. Devontae to Vegas. The Chiefs got to pay Orlando Brown. I get it, but man, you have a much more level playing field in the West.
I think I was saying this before before the playoffs this year, where a championship window, Tom Brady's kind of spoiled us there. Championship windows aren't as long as you think once you have to start paying your quarterbacks, once you have to start paying those guys that you've drafted. And I think this is effectively not closing the Chiefs championship window, but it's
shrunk it.
It shrunk it. I don't think the championship window is going to be open this next year, but it's saying we're going to extend our window with Mahomes by, instead of overpaying Tariq Hill, who might only have his speed for 3-4 more years, let's go extend the window. Let's give ourselves a chance 2-3 years from now to give ourselves another championship window.
Here's the thing, though. If you get dethroned as Kansas City, if you go from 12-4, 13-3, and I know I'm going off of 16-game seasons, so forgive me. But point is this: Kansas City's always had home field. Mahomes has never had to go on the road. Not that he can't, but he hasn't had to for a playoff ball game. Hasn't had to jack with it. You've got the rest of that division that's really gotten markedly better and is now straight up a fist fight anyway, but now has some key pieces to screw you up, either on defense or to try and match your firepower. Buffalo's looming right there on you. Cincinnati got to the Super Bowl, for the love of God, in year 2 with their quarterback and setup. And they're making changes. They're going to upgrade their offensive line. They're going to continue to be an opportunistic defense. They're going to be a balanced offense with a game breaker at wide receiver. I just think in the short term, and if you get knocked off, that window's not closed, it's not locked, it is just shrunk. And you're asking guys to step their game up and have the same effect that Hill has had for a number of years with this Chiefs offense. What's RG3 say about it? Pretty good insight from a former NFL guy with what Tariq does, and also the Miami side of this.
You're partnering Tua and getting Tyreek to partner with Devontae Parker, with Jalen Waddle. These guys, they brought in Ryan Mostert at running back, Chase Edmonds at running back. They just signed Teron Armstead. McDaniel and his staff are literally putting the pieces together to go out and compete at the highest level. I wouldn't say that they're like Super Bowl contenders at this point, but they're going to give a lot of teams a lot of headache. And when you look at the Chiefs, now they're asking more out of Travis Kelce. They're asking more out of Juju Smith-Schuster. They're asking more out of Nicole Hartman, and then praying that Josh Gordon can have a resurgence, the former All-Pro. But getting the first-round pick for the Chiefs is big because this receiver class is very, very deep and very talented. So maybe they feel like they can mimic the success with Tariq Hill, but I don't see that. I don't see it right now. I don't know. Tariq Hill is a very special player, and those guys don't grow on trees.
He said it. They're special, and he's special in the perfect offense. Last thought here on Hill. With Mahomes, who bailed who out? I mean, Mahomes is so key, but that chemistry those two guys had, incredible. If I'm Mahomes, I'm freaking. I know you just got Juju, and he's really good. But he and Tariq's proven. Tariq's taken over games. Tariq's won you games single-handedly. And how many times has Mahomes had to run for his life to make an incredible throw on the run? A lot. And guess who was on the other side getting open when it's helter-skelter time and the breakdown happens? It was Hill. And it was Hill lighting up an entire defense getting behind. And just think about getting in field goal range. Think about getting in field goal range for Butker to do his thing in the waning moments of regulation.
I just think the Chiefs are playing the long game here. You're looking at the fact that the Bills are going to have to pay Josh Allen his money starting after this next season. His cap hit goes up a ton. The Bengals are going to have to pay Joe Burrow. The Chargers are going to have to pay Justin Herbert. All these teams are going to have to start paying their young quarterbacks, and I think the Chiefs are just looking at it and going, well, do we want to compete with these teams this year that only have to pay their franchise quarterbacks $8 million whenever we're paying our guy $38 million, or are we going to wait for them to start paying that money and everything will kind of even out in the AFC? I think they're playing the long game here and saying, we have Patrick Mahomes, we can still win a championship 10 years from now, and we don't need
Chiefs
to be urgent.
Reinvented towards the second half of the season and found a new way to win without being as explosive. Who wowed you with Nebraska's Pro Day? I think Deontay. I mean, we know who did what at the Combine, and good for those guys. But Deontay really showed quite a bit.
I like Deontay. I liked what we saw from Samari Toure running the 4.4s, and then Cam Jurgens, another incredible
Cam's
day.
3-cone was nuts. A Jock Doc's on the way. What's the word on Zion? Is he ready to help get at least play-in ready? Dr. Brandon Seifert's next. Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcast is part of what we do at Hail Varsity. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Hail Varsity Radio back with you on a Wednesday. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Time for a Jock Doc Wednesday with Nebraska Orthopedic Center. We say hi to Dr. Brandon Seifert. Dr. Brandon, good to spend time with you. How are you?
I'm great, Chris. How are you guys?
Well, we're doing well, and it looks like Zion Williamson fans and Pelican fans are doing a little bit better thanks to Instagram, as Zion was doing a Dr. Brandon tribute with that windmill dunk. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
The old Nerf hoop, right?
You didn't see that it was down at 6 foot.
Yeah, right. Yours and mine both. But let's dive into Zion, and it's been frustrating for a lot of this season. He's had a right foot fracture that has kept him out all of this season. He's had setbacks, but was able to go play one-on-one. Let's reset what Zion's been dealing with here, Dr. Brandon, with this right foot fracture. Got to take us into the ailment, the fracture, and then potential setbacks by coming back potentially too soon. Why has it been such a long road for such a great player?
Yeah, great questions, Chris. The big thing here, just kind of rewinding back from an anatomic perspective, the injury that Zion had was what we call a fifth metatarsal fracture. It's basically a fracture that happens at the base of that we call the metatarsal bone that comes off the small toe, so it's kind of back towards the midfoot. The common fracture in our athletes, especially our high-level basketball players, the specific name for it's called a Jones fracture. We've talked about this before, some other athletes. Why it's important is it's in an area that doesn't have great blood supply. So typically if you're going to get a fracture in this area, it does not heal well. That's why we fix these surgically to try to help promote that. But even athletes who, we do these surgeries on, there still is a chance that, with that kind of limited blood supply in the area, it may not totally heal, may continue to cause issues in the area. This is kind of like a Yao Ming type issue as well. And so as you look at what Zion's going through, it basically had the surgery last year, had a nice recovery, and then as he's gone through this, he's continued to have pain on the outside of that foot, and then as looks like they've done some further imaging and studies on this, that there's a question about whether or not this is healing appropriately. In fact, I think he was recently out in Los Angeles and had some kind of bone stimulant injected into the area to try to further promote healing. I think there's even been some talk of a possible second surgery for this. Fortunately, it's rare to get into that situation where you're having to talk about second surgery, maybe not totally healed, but can happen. Do you look at a guy like him and just the size of the guy? I mean, the guy's a large fella, very muscular. You think about what he can do athletically with his size. Does that maybe contribute to this? That's a potential as being an issue. But in the end, this can just be a pesky area where the blood supply issue really does become a big issue.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us. A Jock Doc Wednesday, Nebraska Orthopedic Center. Zion Williamson, our topic, as he's getting back from that Jones fracture, able to do some one-on-one and some dunking, and maybe it moves the direction of full clearance to where he can help New Orleans get into that, at least that play-in setup where they're 10th now without him. He could give them a jolt forward. What are some preventative things moving forward? Say Zion comes back, there's no more setbacks, and he's able to to play well. What's a need or something necessary for him moving forward to take care of this region, the Jones fracture? Hesitancy. You don't want to have a re-injury. You don't want to have a new injury with just his size and how much pressure and weight is going on his foot.
For him, you could place in a shoe that might help him. That's a possibility. You definitely want to look at him from a nutritional perspective. You want to make sure you're maximizing his vitamin D, all those really important kind of bone growth substitutes. You want to make sure that you're maximizing those for him. So that's probably what they're looking at. And then you take a guy like him and you start asking the question about, okay, why is he not healing? We talked about kind of the size of him. But you could also take a look at it from a structural perspective. Does he have some type of maybe foot alignment deformity that's kind of leading to extra stress in this area? There's a fancy term out there called metatarsus adductus, where your metatarsal is the long bones in your feet are kind of pointed in the wrong direction, which then basically kind of centers all that force over that area where he's experiencing his fracture issue. So does he need some kind of corrective alignment? That could be another possibility they might have to think about for him. I think obviously managing kind of his weight's going to be important. He's probably a guy that may have to slim up a little bit, maybe play a little slimmer than maybe what his body would naturally be at, just so you're taking away some of that force. And then obviously you think about the player he is, the power and the jumping ability he has. How do you try to maybe change his game a little bit and limit some of that for him at times? But that's tough when you look at his game and how he scores his points and the force that he is.
Dr. Brandon, you mentioned the possibility of being able to put some sort of insert in his shoe to be able to play. And I believe that's what they did with Derrick Henry for the playoffs, because he came back from, I think it was the same injury, and they had a metal plate in his cleat. Is that similar to what you're talking about with an insert into this shoe for Zion Williamson?
Yes, there'd be a couple. Great question. There'd be a couple of options there. One of the ones that we use most commonly with these, it's called a carbon fiber foot plate. So traditionally, it used to be a metal, basically insert you put in the shoe. It kind of looks like the insole of your shoe, pretty thin. The metal ones are pretty heavy. That's why they've shifted to the carbon fiber ones that are wafer thin, super strong, and lightweight. That basically takes all that flex out of your shoe, especially in the midfoot section where this fracture is. And so that's definitely a go-to. All of our athletes I take care of this injury, that's what they're going into when they go back and play. So it probably already has that part of it. The other thing you could think about, as we talked about some of that structural stuff, if there's maybe a little bit of a structural issue, alignment issue with his foot, you could talk about something like an orthotic, which can kind of create some different structural alignment for the foot. So that's another option for him too. That would be probably more kind of what I would be thinking about at this point, because my guess is they probably tried the foot plate thing already.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us, a Jock Doc Wednesday. Zion Williamson could be ready to go here sooner rather than later. Nebraska Orthopedic Center, our Jock Doc Wednesday. Dr. Brandon, last thought here. With Zion, and I look at him and his size and in his game, and I know the NBA is not as physical as it used to be. So traditionally you have bigs that kind of round their game to have more range versus just always banging down low on the block. That might be an option for him to kind of slim up and maybe add a little more finesse versus the brute power with his foot. Is this just a situation where maybe it's just going to be how it's going to be? And what I mean by that is it's just always going to be something lingering that he'll have to play through.
Yeah, Chris, that is a good question. And a difficult thing to answer, because it sure could be. You look across kind of the history of NBA basketball. These can be really pesky, and these can be tough things to kind of get over. I'm not saying he's headed for a career-ending injury here, but these can be things that are just nagging, and so that's a good point. This might be something he always kind of struggles with. I think before I would kind of doom him to that pathway, I think I'd be curious to know how he feels if they can get that bony part to look really good on X-ray, so he really does have a pretty significant fill-in of that bone. If you get him to that point, if you can get him to that point, that's the question. Then I think a lot of that nagging pain probably goes away, and he feels pretty good. But I still think you might have to make just some changes again to either the game and definitely kind of his size.
Dr. Brandon, great stuff. We'll do this again. Thanks for a few minutes today.
You bet, buddy. You guys take care.
Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcasts are just part of what we do at Hail Varsity. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we do, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, podcast there for you. Hail Varsity Radio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, where you can download, subscribe. It don't cost you nothing, as Beluto said to the two potential pledges walking into the Delta House that first time. Don't ask what he did to their leg. Point is, you walk in, you get a beer. Don't cost nothing. We're not quite as tasty as a beer, but some days perhaps. So you subscribe to us. Hail Varsity Radio. Good, bad, or ugly, give us a review. We love the reviews and the feedback. And Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. In fact, check out all the family of Hurrdat folks. Incredible podcasts for the people you love who cover Nebraska football or high school athletics. Jim Harbaugh is still wowed in those khakis with what happened Nebraska, Michigan, that night venue on ABC.
That was insane.
Yeah.
What an atmosphere. That game day experience.
Pause this real quick. Real quick. This is clean to run, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't know. When Will and old Taylor get rocking, I just had to, oh, wait a minute. I said fire. Making sure we're okay. Let's restart it. That was my fault.
Well, man, I sure hope it's clean.
Well, do we need to preview it? Okay, we're going to preview this so it's suitable for airplay. I may have saved us thousands of dollars. I may have wasted 90 seconds. We shall see. You can send your emails, chris@hailvarsity.com. Elijah's just disgusted with me. Okay. And action.
That was insane.
Yeah.
What an atmosphere. That game day experience at Memorial was off the chain, as the young people say.
Yeah.
You know, the music, the thing they do between the third and the fourth quarter.
Oh my! When the lights go off and the red lights, yes, bro.
What's the song they play? It's a Metallica song or heavy metal song.
Oh, that's tough.
It is tough, but I know I should know that.
Some dude with long hair banging away on his guitar. Thunderstruck by AC/DC.
Come on. As well as
Metallica's from San Francisco, AC/DC's from London or from England.
There's also the little intro it smells like Teen Spirit. So
that's my band is Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
You want to fire up any friends of yours from Seattle of a certain age? Tell them Nirvana is overrated, and they'll be ready to fight.
I would never say anything like that.
No, I did as a way to poke the bear.
I have Nevermind on vinyl, remastered.
Ooh,
yeah,
good work.
Good one.
We were down at Longwell's tomorrow. Speaking of beer, 76 plus to choose from. Longwell's tomorrow, 4 to 6. Come get your seat. Come hang out. Go watch NCAA basketball, the Sweet 16. We're there tomorrow. We're there Friday. Want to see you. Some goodies to give away. Good road show tomorrow at Longwell's Hail Varsity down there, 4 to 6, right ahead of Sweet 16. Talk to you tomorrow. Thanks.
A Hurrdat Media Production.